Hello everyone. Welcome. We will start in a few minutes. Give some people a chance to come on, and then we'll get going. First ever Swim Smart webinar. Pretty exciting. Hopefully it goes well. This is my first time, so if the connection drops and we have technical problems, I apologize in advance. If you have questions, leave it in the chat. Be happy to try to get to them as we go along. Let me see if I can. If you guys are just joining, we're going to start in a few minutes. Let me know in the chat where you guys are coming from. Be interested to see who all is here, who all is interested, where you guys are from in the world. I'm in Salt Lake City myself for now. All right, Connecticut, Oregon, wow, awesome, from all over. And I think I will try to record this and then post it later, so if you guys want to share it with your team, that would be great. Excited to get more people involved and more information out there. Alrighty. All right, maybe a couple more minutes and then we'll go. Iowa City, yes, Iowa City is here. That's where I did medical school a few years ago, graduated, 2018? Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Tennessee, Pennsylvania, awesome. Okay, I think we'll get going here, and then again I'll record this and post it on our YouTube channel. That way you guys can share it, and we'll get more people educated, I guess. Okay, alrighty. So welcome to Swim Smart's first ever webinar. My name is Carl. I'm the founder of Swim Smart, and I don't know, depending on who you ask, either I do medicine on the side or I do this on the side, but you know, I guess most people probably don't know who I am, so just a couple tidbits about me. I did biology as my undergrad, and then there was kind of a gap year where I did some exercise science for a master's degree, but then I dropped out to go to med school, and I finished up my radiology residency, and during all this time I was kind of bored, didn't have enough to do, so I started these couple companies, Swim Smart and FogX, which, you know, maybe we'll go over later, but and part of that is authoring these books. You know, I was doing all this studying and all this work, And I'm like, most of this information I'm going to forget, and a lot of it, if you put it in the right context, can be made for swimmers. And I was a swimmer and a coach before going through all this, so I wrote the biology of swimming, which is where a lot of this information comes from. And that's what we're going to be discussing today, is kind of that nutrition chapter. So the real big goal here is refueling, rebuilding, and rehydrating what I call the swimming machine, right? Your body is like a machine, like a car, like a rocket ship, and after every workout, you're kind of broken down, your gas tank is empty, you're dehydrated, and so these are all the things that nutrition is trying to fix, and we're trying to fix it as fast as we can so that the next workout can be as good as it can be. A couple things that we're not going to really worry about is like weight management, right? This is not a talk about you losing weight, about gaining weight. Those are kind of different topics, and I'll kind of reiterate that the goal here is to make the best swimmer possible, and we're going to play by the rules, and then we'll let the body weight kind of go up and down as it wants, right? But our goal is to refuel, rebuild, rehydrate. And then for personalized plans, you may have noticed, like, I'm not a registered dietitian, okay? Those people get real into the weeds about, okay, you work out 2.5 hours a day, you need these macros, this and that. We're going to keep everything very like a 30,000 foot view. I think there's a lot of good information that is not hard to come by, it's not hard to understand, but it's something that we can all use kind of on a daily basis to answer our swimmers' questions. When they come to us, parents, they always have questions about this. This seems to be a big mystery, and hopefully my goal is just to uncover the mystery a little bit today. So kind of the topics that we're going to go through. What is food at the basic level? So we'll go through different types of building blocks and what's important to know about each of them. The big thing is going to be carbohydrates and the associated glycemic index and the workout loophole. This is what we're going to use to eventually build like a meal plan, a weekly meal plan, which we'll go over. And then right at the end, a few minutes we'll spend on some optional stuff like supplements and micronutrients. And that's more because people always have questions about it. And I want you guys, if you're coaches out there, and let me know in the chat who's a coach, who's a swimmer. If you're coaches, people come to you with these questions all the time, and I want you to have good answers. All right, if you truly zone out because my monotone voice put you guys to sleep, these are the important things, right? We just want to eat food that's good for you, okay? And what is that? They don't teach us in school like what good food is. And I've seen patients in the hospital come in, they think they're eating the right things, and they just have no education about it. So these are my two kind of rules of thumb. The faster something spoils, the better it is for you. So think about like milk, vegetables, right? They don't last a week, but you can keep chips and donuts in the pantry for years, right? So probably something is wrong. If the bacteria and the fungus don't even like it, it's probably not the best thing for you. Second rule of thumb is the longer it takes to make, the better it is for you. So if you put a frozen meal in a microwave that takes 2 minutes to make versus a pot roast that's been simmering in the crock pot for 8 hours, I think things that take a lot of effort and time are better for you. All right, so let's go with what is food. And again, if you guys have questions, hit me up in the chat. Be happy to try to get to them. So all food is made up of essentially 4 basic building blocks, and I left one out. The first one is like nucleic acids, so the things that make up DNA, RNA, and the reason they're not really important for our talk is because your body can make those from scratch. So, and you need very little of it, and it really doesn't play in a role. So we're going to ignore number 1. Number 2 is going to be protein, and these numbers, percentages, are like what the big head honchos say is your daily recommended value, although I think this is totally dependent on how much exercise you do, who you are. I'm a radiologist. I sit on my butt all day long. I don't need like any carbs, right? Whereas a swimmer needs as much rocket fuel as they can get. And that's kind of what our talk is going to be. But protein is one, fats another, carbs another. And these all come in like little building blocks that can grow on themselves, and we're not going to get into the minutia, but when you think about food, just think about like your plate. Okay, how much protein is on here, how much fat, how much carbs, right? And as we go through the talk, hopefully it'll make more and more sense why we have to fluctuate these things throughout the day. So let's start with the most simple, which is protein. The most important thing to know about protein, it's really not used as a fuel. At least it shouldn't be, unless something has gone wrong. Like overtraining is when you'd hit that point, and that's a whole nother discussion, which maybe we'll get to at another time. But protein is really for building the actual machinery of the muscles and the swimming machine. So the myosin, the actin, the enzymes, the mitochondria, all those things that you forgot about from high school biology. Swimmers don't need to get big, and even big bodybuilders, they don't really need a lot of protein to get big. There's not a whole lot that we need to adjust. The only 2 times that knowing protein is useful is when you wake up. Your liver uses protein to make sugar for your brain, and in the morning your liver's kind of out of its tank has run dry. So giving it a little bit of a replacement in the morning before workout can be important. So we'll go through that, and then if you want to be real fancy, this is totally like not necessary, I don't think, but your body will use protein as a fuel if it's not good at using other things as a fuel. So if you're out of shape or if you're coming in from off season to in season, that's when your protein use is going to be highest. And some people say, you can increase your intake, you can double your protein intake. So typically you're supposed to have 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So if you're like me, weigh about 165 pounds, that's about 70 kilos. So on a daily basis, I'm supposed to eat like 70 grams of protein. But if I'm like coming back from off season and I'm a bit out of shape, maybe I should bump that up to 140 for the first couple weeks and then knock it back down. But again, this is like minutia, going the extra mile, definitely not 100% necessary. All right, fats is kind of the next step here. They come in like a million varieties. So it can be kind of confusing, so we're going to break it down a little bit. But fat is used as a fuel in swimming, and it's used a lot, especially when you're swimming kind of longer distances at slower speeds, but the supply is essentially unlimited. So it's not something that we have to worry about replacing necessarily, especially if we eat plenty of carbs and proteins. Anything that you eat in excess is just going to be converted to fat, and that's a good thing. That's fine. Your body needs that fat, and fat is good. There's certain vitamins that are dissolved in fat and can only be absorbed when you eat fat. So it definitely has its importance, and I don't want to minimize it. So there's 3 big categories of fats, and they kind of have a range of how good they are for you. So, the ones that everyone talks about, which are bad for you, are the trans fats. And this is kind of a link here to Cleveland Clinic on what foods contain a lot of trans fats. It's really minimal in the diet. I think, especially in the U.S., they've kind of like banned it essentially. So you don't find it much, but these are synthetic fats. They have no use in the body. They're really, just not good. What we can eat in a limited amount is these saturated fats, and these are mostly come from like animal products, so bacon, milk, red meat, and these are growing in popularity. More and more studies and people are saying, these are actually pretty good for you, but right now they say, every once in a while these are okay, but don't overdo it. Now, the fats that we really like are these mono and polyunsaturated fats, and these mostly come from plants. So olive oil, nuts, avocados. These are the ones people are like, these are great for you, anti-inflammatory. And again, why are we going through this? If you put good stuff in the body, we're going to get good results, right? So we want to play by the rules as much as we can, and really feed ourselves well. That way every workout can be as good as possible. So where to find bad fats? As you can imagine, it's all your typical, junk food type stuff. So cookies, candies, donuts, fried food, frozen food, crackers, so just in the back of your mind, this is the reason people say junk food is bad is because of these trans fats and who knows what preservatives and stuff they put in there, and so that I'm just trying to give you guys answers for questions when swimmers and parents come to you and ask you about these. Okay, the big one here is carbs. This is what we really care about. This is what we came for. This is out of everything that we talk about. Swimming workouts, carbs are like rocket fuel, and that's what your body's going to use mostly when you're racing, when you're training at a even a moderate amount, but here's the problem with them. With every gram of carb comes like 3 grams of water. It's very sticky to water, and so your body really cannot store carbohydrates very much. So you have a very limited amount of carbs in your muscles. And in this talk, I'm going to use carbs, sugars, starch. These are all, they're not interchangeable, but for our purpose, it kind of is. So just be aware I kind of use those terms interchangeably just for these kind of these basic talks. But the important thing is, so if the tank was full and then you went and swam as hard as you could, as long as you could, you'd run the tank dry in about 40 minutes. Okay. So you really don't have very much stamina when it comes to carbs. And at the end of every workout, I know how swimmers train. I trained them. I mean, we go hard. And so by the end, your tank is totally dry. And the goal that we want to do, what we're going to spend the next few minutes on, is how do we refuel these muscles as quick as possible? That way the next workout, those muscles are ready to go. They have a full tank of gas, and we can hit it hard again. The big thing is that the wrong carbs, not all carbs are made the same. Again, like fats, they come in a million varieties. And if you have the wrong carbs at the wrong time, I think time is really the key word here. That refueling process is not going to go to the muscles. It's going to go to other places, fat, liver, things that don't help us actually swim fast. And so we want to control where this rocket fuel is going, okay? So they have different effects. So what we need to understand in order to take advantage of these different carbs that have different effects is we need to understand how insulin works. We're going to talk about the glycemic index and why working out is actually like a loophole. And we're going to use all 3 of these to build our meal plan later on, okay? One more note before we go, fructose. Everyone has heard that high fructose corn syrup is no good. Why is that? I mean, why can't a swimmer who's training 4 hours a day, so this biochemically, if you look at the chemical reactions inside cells, fructose really has no purpose there. There's no point in which you biochemically use fructose. And so regardless of working out, regardless of insulin, regardless of glycemic index, almost all of it will turn into fat no matter what. And usually it's fat in the liver, which is a bad place to put it. So again, this is kind of, the bane of all dietitians, because especially since it's everywhere. But just as we go along, that's kind of a tidbit. Any questions so far, please hit me up. Hopefully the stream is going well and you guys are staying live with me. But I'll keep an eye on the chat, and if questions come up, we can always go back. So let's get into the glycemic index and the workout loophole. So when you eat a whole bunch of carbs, a bagel, let's say, first thing that your body does is it breaks it down in the intestines, and then it gets absorbed into the blood here. Okay, and all these blue dots, these are my sugars. And the sugar is stuck in the blood. It doesn't go anywhere at first. Your muscles and fat cells, they're not allowed to just spontaneously take up that sugar. The reason is your brain runs a lot on sugar and it gets first dibs. And it's kind of an exception to this rule that it can take sugar without anybody's permission, okay? So in order to get the sugar out of the blood and into the muscle and fat, you need a hormone called insulin, right? You guys have probably come across this. Type 1 diabetics, for instance, they don't make any insulin at all, so their sugar in the blood just goes up and up and up, and it causes problems. But before this is really important to note. You need insulin to get the sugar out into the fat, out into the muscle, sometimes into the liver, and the absorption, the speed of the absorption of the carbohydrates is proportional to, or your insulin response is going to be proportional to the speed of absorption. So if you have simple sugars like Gatorade, starchy stuff like potatoes, candies, right? These are easy and fast absorbing things, and so they'll cause a very big rise in insulin. But if you have things with like complex carbs, like vegetables, for instance, vegetables would be a great example. So they have some carbohydrates, but they come with a lot of fiber. The carbs are like in these big chains. They have to be broken down. They have to be absorbed, so it doesn't get absorbed quickly, and so you have a very small rise in insulin. And this measurement of the rise of the sugar in your blood is called a glycemic index, right? So if you have a high glycemic index food like Gatorade, you're going to have this big spike in sugar, and you're going to have a big spike in insulin. Whereas if you have something low glycemic index, meat, cheese, veggies, you have a very low response to both. And so here's what it looks like kind of on a graph. And these are just for conceptual purposes, right? It's not like a totally accurate, one-to-one chart. But blue is the sugar, green is the insulin, and as you can see, under normal circumstances, they basically run together. There's a bunch of lists out there that you can find, like which foods have what kind of glycemic index. I mean, these are thousands of different types of food, and it's difficult to, no one would expect you to memorize all of these. But once you start looking at a few of these, you start getting a handle of what low, medium, and high glycemic index foods look like. The numbers are down here, and it's much easier to divide them just into those three categories: low, medium, high. And here's kind of a chart that I like, and it kind of breaks it down into these columns. And there's like breakfast cereals, fruits, beans, and let's just take a quick kind of overview just to give you guys ideas on what these foods look like, right? So fruits, like we say, they're kind of nature's, they come with a lot of extra. They're very sweet, but they come with like a lot of that fiber, and so they're not easy to break down. And so you have a low spike in sugar, and so you have a low glycemic index. Whereas if you have something like watermelon, which is basically all juice, you have all the sugar from there is easily absorbed. Most beans, obviously we have some overlap here, but most beans are in the low part. The non-starchy vegetables, so things that are not carrots, not corn, not potatoes. These are everything else, like the green stuff, the stuff that nobody likes, asparagus, broccoli, those are in the low grain. Any type of like fish, meat, eggs, cheese, all of these are going to be in the low category. Coming to the medium stuff, let's see here, breads. I would say breads, grains, pasta, these are all in the medium, and we're going to come back to these and use these when we build our meal plan, okay? Soda, obviously, in the high glycemic index. Most breakfast cereals are in the high glycemic index. Processed breads, these white breads, baguettes, bagels are in the high stuff. Rice, what else? So, just when you get a chance, look through this kind of chart, and it just gives you an idea of what foods belong where, okay? Just a heads up, the system is more complicated. We talked about glycemic index. There is something called the glycemic load. So it's not just about how fast the sugar is absorbed, but it's also how much sugar there is, right? So if you eat a bite of, a meat, let's say you eat a bite of steak, your glycemic load is going to be also very small. So why do I bring this up? You know, it is important, just the total number of carbs you're having for a sit down meal. But swimmers, I mean, they basically overeat everything in my experience. So we can essentially ignore glycemic index for now and just focus on, we can ignore glycemic load and focus on glycemic index. To give you an example of how this works, so back to our watermelon example. So watermelon has a very high glycemic index. I think it's over 100 on some of the other charts. But the sugar it has is very dilute. So the whole watermelon, a 4-pound watermelon might only have like 10 grams of carbs total. So the load is actually very small. And so, just so you're aware, that does play a role, but we're going to kind of ignore it. All right, so what is the workout loophole? This is the big, this is the thing that we really, really need to understand, because it's going to help us map out our meal plan as we go along. So there is one time where muscles are allowed to steal sugar from the blood without insulin's permission, and that's when you're working out. And the idea here is you have a bunch of hormones that are getting released, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, these things, and these basically unlock the muscle's ability to steal sugar from the blood without insulin's permission. And the reason behind this is, like, let's say you're in a fight with like a lion in the savannah. Your brain doesn't need the sugar right now. Your muscles need it to survive, right? And all of us have felt this during a butterfly workout. It's a fight for survival, and we don't really need our brains to work. We need the muscles to work. And so this is really the only time where you can have a rise in sugar into the blood, but the insulin will stay flat. Why is this important? Because fat cells, liver cells, other things in the body still need insulin to get this sugar. So now we've totally shunted the supply of sugar into one area, which is the muscles, right? So we can take total advantage of that to jumpstart and maximize refueling of the muscles, and then keep things away from other places. Again, this is not because I don't want people to, this is not a fat talk. It's not that I have anything against fat cells. It's just that fat doesn't help us move through the water. So if it doesn't help us move through the water, we don't need it. We don't need to fuel it, and we're just going to be wasting our recovery. All right, that was section 2. We'll pause for just a minute and grab a drink. If you have questions in the chat, please let me know. We can always go back. Hopefully I'm making some sense. All right. Let's keep moving. So how are we going to put all these together and do some meal planning for our everyday workouts, and then and also for competition? We'll kind of touch on that as well. USA Swimming, I think a while back, came up with this 3 meals, 3 snacks idea, and I really like that. So that's what we're going to try to do. And again, what's the goal here? Let's say we're high school, college age swimmer, and we're working out hard. We're serious about this, and we're doing doubles, so two workouts a day, morning and night. How are we going to schedule these meals, these snacks? What are we going to have during those meals and snacks? Just to give you guys an idea, like college and high-end high school swimmers, I think they burn about 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day, right? So it's a huge amount. And just so you're aware, and when researchers looked at swimmers who were overtraining, swimmers who were really kind of breaking down and not improving, I mean, they were deficient 1,000 calories a day, and a lot of it was carbs. So this is why this is important. It's helping us improve our workout and prevent overtraining. So the pattern that we're gonna, before we go into the every meal, every snack, the pattern that we're gonna hit up is during workout we want high glycemic index liquids. So things that are easy to absorb. These are your Powerades, your Gatorades, your sports drinks. And then once workout is over, and the further away we get from workout, we're going to go lower and lower on the glycemic index scale. So the next meal after workout is going to be more medium type stuff, and then the meal after that is going to be more low glycemic index foods. And again, the goal is to shunt as much carbs to the muscles immediately when they can accept it, and then as we get further and further away, we want to focus more on protein and fat and vegetables to help with the rebuilding process of the muscles. And we're going to try to avoid junk food because, as we said, garbage in is garbage out. And for those asking in the chat, yes, I am recording this. I will post it to our YouTube page so that you can share it with whoever you like. I'd be very excited to hear, get this info out and help everyone understand. Okay, so let's go through this step by step. Step 1, wake up in the morning for morning practice. Your liver is responsible for keeping your brain alive when you're asleep. So the liver is kind of always just oozing out sugar. But by the time the morning comes around, it's run its tank dry. And so that's why brains are kind of foggy in the morning. So before you hit the water, it's nice to have some sort of snack just to get your brain, more for your brain, not your muscles, but more for your brain to get some fuel for it so that you can actually focus during the workout and have a good workout. I think, for older swimmers, teenage-ish and older, caffeine is a great supplement, very well researched, very safe, and it can definitely help. It's been proven to help workouts. It's been proven to help you take tests better. So, if you have swimmers that are 15, 16 and up that come to you like, hey, should I do some coffee? Obviously talk with their parents, have a discussion, but from my perspective, yeah, I think it's a safe thing. So what do these look like? Breakfast shake, an apple. Try to stay away from juice because we don't want to spike insulin before workout. That would not be good. Okay, so then you go to your actual morning workout, and we're going to hit up these sugary drinks, the Gatorades, the Powerades. And look, I get it. As a swimmer, I was there. It's really hard to do this in swimming because we're flat on our stomachs most of the time, and so things don't like to stay down. And I could show you research from cyclists. I mean, the amount of carbs you burn in a tough workout is on the order of like 100 to 200 grams an hour. So it's a huge amount. I mean, you're talking about 2 or 3 Gatorade bottles an hour just to keep up on the carb demand. Like, there's no way we're going to keep up with that during workout. But the idea is just to do as much as you can. And this is taking advantage of that workout loophole that we talked about, and it lasts a little bit after you're done working out. So between exiting the pool and getting to the shower, if you've had a tough workout, hit up another bottle of this, just drain it. And if you have a sweet tooth for chocolate, for fruit, for candy, like, this would be the time to do it. But it's got to be right after workout and never any other time. Okay, so then we're on our way before class. We're going to hit some breakfast. What do we want? We want to tone down the glycemic index and hit up some medium stuff. And then we also want to incorporate, obviously, protein and fats at this point. We want a balanced diet. So we're talking oatmeal, like whole bread, whole pancakes, some of those cereals that are in the medium carb index stuff. We're going to try to stay away from donuts, processed pancakes, cake. There's too much, naughtiness going on there. So snack 2, meal 2, these can kind of be interchanged. I know, I'm kind of gearing this towards high school swimmers and college swimmers. So if you have an early lunch, you can move snack 2 afterwards. If you have a late lunch, put the snack 2 before. But here we're going to drop down the glycemic index again and stay low. So we're talking nuts, avocados, maybe a protein shake, maybe some cheese, something salty, I think, to keep you thirsty and keep your hydration up. Lunch is going to be right before, or it's going to be the meal before the second workout of the day. So again, we want to stay things low. And this is kind of like your paleo diet. So meat and veggies, not as much pasta and carbs and bread. Again, try to stay away from corn dogs and hamburgers and fried chicken. It's been a long time since I've been in high school, but I'm pretty sure they haven't changed much of what they serve there, and if I remember right, it was no good. Okay, we're going to hit up afternoon workout again. the Gatorades, the Powerades, that's the time to do it, just like in morning workout. And then usually these afternoon workouts are kind of late in the day and it's time for dinner. So it's going to resemble breakfast a lot. So medium glycemic index carbs with your protein and fats. So what are we talking about? Pasta, beans, rice, and some meats and veggies on the side, and a fruit for dessert. Yummy. I'm getting hungry talking about it already. Okay, and then right before bedtime, we're going to do a snack for some recovery overnight, and this should be really protein heavy. Cheese, jerky, milk, protein shake, and this will kind of help rebuild the muscles overnight, right? Most of the rebuilding of when you're done with a workout, like you actually tore up those muscles. That's what makes you sore. That's the sore feeling the next day. And most of that repair happens overnight. So we want to give those building blocks to the swimming machine so that it actually has something to build with. And that's what snack 3 is for. And then obviously we want to stay hydrated, drinking fluids throughout the day. We're kind of trying to target about 1 gallon of fluid a day, which it's quite a bit. So get a big water bottle, fill it up, and keep it next to you. For those who are, struggling, I've come across swimmers who just struggle to keep their hydration up. If you want a good idea of how hydrated you are, you can weigh yourself before and after practice to see how much weight you've lost. I've heard of swimmers lose 5-10% of their body weight, and like that's an extreme version of dehydration. But if you lose even 1 to 2% of your body weight in water, you can measure your decline in performance. So it's a very tight tolerance there. So, and if you just don't stay hydrated, your heart has to work more. Workout's going to feel worse. It's going to feel harder. And I want workout to feel easy for you, so that way you can do a great job. One of the things that I used to do was I'd get these big syrup jugs and keep it in the car or keep it on deck, and you just mix it with some water, and that way you have like a ready-made Gatorade to and this just again helps jumpstart that refueling process so that the next workout is as good as we can make it. Any questions so far? Again, hit us up in the chat. So we put together this nutrition plan, and I'll show you where you can find it on the website, but it comes with 20 weeks of this weekly chart, right? And so we have our meals here on the left, obviously the days up on the top, and for each snack and each meal, it kind of gives you a little bit of a blurb on what we're trying to put there. So you wake up, low to medium glycemic index carbs. Breakfast is going to be mostly medium glycemic carbs. Lunch is going to be low. Dinner, medium. Snack, fluid. And this way you can actually write out every day what you're going to do. So here's an example of what that looks like. And don't be afraid to repeat the same thing every day. Like this snack up here, it's the same thing every day. Protein shake, trail mix bar, cup of coffee. This snack is same thing. Salted nuts, dried fruit. This snack is the same thing. Jerky and nuts. Great. And for the breakfasts and the lunch and dinners, I kind of put different types of meals, but you don't have to change it up every day. For instance, I don't have the time to cook every day and plan 21 different types of meals every week. So I would do like big batch cooking. So on the weekend you do, you get a whole bunch of these ready and you just eat that for breakfast every day for that week. And then the next week you change. You get another lunch ready for the whole week. But let's just go through a couple of these just so you get an idea of like how do these meals change in their appearance to stick within our plan. So for instance here, breakfast, this is right after workout. We're going to do some pastries, a couple eggs, some fruit, and that's like our medium glycemic index meal, right? But for lunch, we want a low glycemic index meal, so we're going to do salmon and like steamed vegetables and a big glass of milk, right? So we got rid of the pastries because we don't really need those right now. And then dinner, we want to go back to a medium glycemic index stuff. So we're doing a pot roast with carrots and potatoes. Remember that carrots and potatoes are somewhat in the medium to high glycemic index range, right? So we're refueling those muscles, and then hopefully every day we're hitting up about a gallon of water. Okay. How do you have a plan for younger swimmers, 10-ish? So younger swimmers are very lucky. They recover way, way better than older swimmers, and their muscles are smaller. So they really don't have to be this specific. I think they just need to, they just have to have a balanced meal every day. I don't think you have to be this fancy. I would not do Gatorade. I would not do coffee. I'm just trying to think of any other advice I have. I stay away from junk food, candy. Kids, once they get addicted to that stuff, sugar, like those simple sugars, it's almost worse than, some studies say it's worse than like cocaine and heroin. So I would just teach them to eat good food, teach them to cook at a young age, or get them involved in the cooking process so that they're interested, and that when they're older they actually know what they're doing. But I would say swimmers 12 and under-ish, you don't have to worry about this stuff quite as much. So great question. I love it. Okay, the 90% rule. So we want to eat good about 90% of the time, and we want to have fun 10% of the time. All right, I'm not saying don't. Even on this chart here, we have pizza because you got to get your cheat in, and you want to enjoy, right? Your brain is one of the things we want to fuel, and we want the brain to be happy. And if a nice Pizza Hut greasy pizza once a week is what you need, then go for it. Personally, I'm a Whopper, Burger King Whopper guy. I like to get 2 of those after a big Saturday swim. But that's just me. I'll let you guys decide what you want to do. Okay, so eating on, at big swim meets. Swim meets are, to be honest, I don't know if I have this figured out. I'm just here to give some ideas. These are hard, especially when you're doing a prelim final 3-day swim meet over the whole weekend. It's hard because you want to race without feeling hungry, and you don't want to be like totally full and like stuffed, right? And you're going to be at that pool, 8, 6, 10 hours a day. So you can't really, bring a pot roast lunch with you. So it's all going to be about snacks, right? And the idea here is, okay, well, what kind of snacks do we want? I would say that we want to stay on the low to medium scale. We don't really want to be drinking Gatorade all weekend. Swimming races are just not long, unless you're doing the 5K or the 10K open water race. All other races are just not long enough to really drive the gas tank that low if we're keeping up on our snacks. So it's not that important to carb load. It's not that important to continuously be drinking Gatorade throughout the weekend. I think it's just not going to be as helpful. We want kids to feel kind of satisfied but not stuffed. I think doing some salty stuff keeps you more thirsty and not hungry. So dried fruit, nuts is good. But when the session is over, when the morning session is done or the late session is done, that's when we want to hit like a big meal, right? Because probably swimmers have been under eating all day. At least that's my experience. They usually under eat all day, and so now we have to make it up. So we go to the all you can eat, place, get as much as we can, and try to help recover as much as we can between sessions. And again, at the end of the day, we want to rebuild those muscles, give them the building blocks, so an emphasis more on protein. Okay, very good. We're almost there, guys. Are you? I think you guys are sticking with me here. We still have about the same number of viewers. This is awesome. Okay, these are some optional extras. Do you need to do this? Absolutely not. But to me, as a coach, swimmers' parents, they came with these questions all the time. And if you have a good answer to them, I think it gives you more credibility to your parents. It gives you more credibility to your swimmers, and it'll build their trust in you. A couple questions we have here on the chat. Our son is a man child, 13 years old, 145 pounds. Yeah, I think adult menu is totally fine, and this is going to be kind of in line with how much they train. If let's say we come back here. Let's say you don't have morning workouts. Do you need to keep doing all of this? All of these 3 snacks, 3 meals? Maybe not. Maybe you can get rid of the first snack and just skip to breakfast. So you can always adjust these. This is just a guideline. There's nothing, hardcore about this. But yeah, I think once you're 13, once you're like an adult weight is probably a better indicator of how developed your child is. So if you have a 13-year-old and they weigh 85 pounds, maybe they don't need to focus so much on all this detailed nutrition. But if you have a 13-year, like what's his name? Michael Andrews, when he was 12 years old, he was 6'2". I mean, that is a man. That's so definitely you want to feed that person like they're a total adult. So it's kind of variable to go by age, but maybe going by weight is a better idea. Okay, so let's get into some of these details. Microbiome, keeping your gut bacteria happy. So this is, all the fad in medicine. Everybody's worried about the microbiome in your colon, the microbiome in your ears, the microbiome on your skin. And, what's the big picture here is that if you eat good food, you'll have good bacteria, and they will they will keep you happy. They'll absorb your food better. They'll keep your brain actually work. Some studies say that it keeps your brain going better. Just to give you kind of a fun idea of how much this matters, there was a study there, and I have the link here. They took the poop out of a thin mouse and they put it in a fat mouse, and the fat mouse ended up getting thin. So they're trying to understand how much these really interact with our own bodies. Fecal transplants have been used to cure like people with C. diff. So it's definitely a growing interest. Things that help promote good gut bacteria, fiber, probiotic foods. Things to stay away from are the processed sugars and trans fats, like we said. So what's a probiotic food? Here's a nice list: yogurt, miso, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut. These are all good things. For some of our older swimmers and coaches, no, beer does not count, even though it is a fermented, all of these are fermented foods, but unfortunately beer does not make it on the list. Sorry. Okay, micronutrients. So these are kind of the trace elements that really most of us get. I know people take multivitamins. Most of the time, those just get peed out, and we don't need them. However, there are a few exceptions. So iron, especially in girls, because they lose some blood every month, they can actually be predisposed to being almost anemic, especially when they're training. When you're training, your blood volume and your red blood cells really upregulate, and so your body, it's one of those building blocks for red blood cells. And if you don't have enough, you might feel kind of tired, and this could be one of the, one of my professors at Iowa State, he was a national exercise science guy in swimming. He would put all his swimmers girls on an iron supplement. So you can get these over the counter. One every other day is fine. It's one of those extras. Is it necessary? Maybe, maybe not, but totally up to you. Vitamin D, if you live anywhere, in the northern half of the U.S., I would say, we really lack vitamin D, and it can be very helpful, not just bones, but also just mentally as well. And most people don't realize, I'm from Iowa, and the sun can be shining in February, but the angle is so low that you still will not stimulate vitamin D making in your skin and in your kidneys, which is where it happens. So some places up in the north, even if the sun is shining, you're still not getting any vitamin D. So having a supplement might help during flu season. And right before taper, zinc, can be helpful in keeping the immune system up. That way you're not getting to your big swim meet that you've been training all season for, and all of a sudden you come down with a sickness. Okay, supplements, obviously there's 1,000 of them. We're not going to go through them. But what are the key things? People come to you, they ask you a question like, hey, should I take this pre-workout? Should I take that pre-workout? What's the answer? Well, first thing you want to know is that these are not regulated. So people can put on the label whatever they want, and then they could put what's in the bottle, whatever they want, unless they have, this USP. This is a company that, third party, you send them a bottle of what you have, and they just tell you that, yes, what's on the label is what is actually in the bottle. So you definitely don't want to buy something that doesn't have a USP label, because you don't know what you're actually getting. Let's see here. A lot of these pre-workouts, in my experience, they have a huge ingredient list, and you don't know what half the stuff is. I would try to avoid things that have a lot in them. The big things that if you're looking for something, if you're looking for the next level, these are the things that I think have been well researched and at least have some evidence that they are beneficial, especially these first two, creatine and caffeine. Now, whether swimmers need creatine is a totally different question. I'm just here to report what actually works, what actually is safe. Whether you use it or not, that's up to you and your coach. But creatine, caffeine, very safe, very well researched. Yes, they are beneficial in certain circumstances. Other things like beetroot juice, beta-alanine, these sodium bicarbonates, they have their place. These are things that I would bring up to, if I was going to take a supplement, these would be like the only things I'd look for. I'd look for caffeine, I'd look for beta-alanine, I'd look for maybe some creatine if I was a swimmer, but that's a whole nother discussion. Okay. Another thing, as we said early on about proteins, when you're training really hard, or you're just coming in from your off season and you're maybe just a little bit out of shape, proteins can be used a little more for fuel than for rebuilding. And if you start using that too much, then you're going to break down your muscles, and it's going to lead to overtraining, this and that. So there are some amino acids which are more beneficial, so things like branched chain amino acids. You probably heard that term before. The reason people say that these are good supplements is because they help refuel the muscles in a way that spares sugar, and that way you can recover a little bit faster. There are a couple other things like these beta hydroxymethylbutyrate, these ketones. There are some companies that sell these. These are like your fat replacements. Are they necessary? Probably not. If you want to learn more, this is a really good article. It's very long. It's somewhat technical, but this is from the kind of international exercise and sports nutrition people. They come out with a big article every few years. This is kind of where a lot of the information came from. So if you want to go directly to the source, this would be it. Okay. I think we are close to being done. Any questions so far? I should have put my email on here. I'll leave it in the chat in the comments, but if you guys come up with questions later on, you're more than welcome to hit me up. So these are kind of the two books that we have, that you can find more details, or you can find these charts. The Biology of Swimming, which goes through way more than just nutrition. This is a whole exercise science book, tons of pictures. And then out of that book, we kind of pulled one chapter and turned it into a nutrition guide with the charts for kids to write in actually what they're going to be eating every week, every day. And that way you and your coach kind of look through the seasons like, okay, what do we need to do different in the next season? What were we good at? What were we not? And if you use webinar 10, get 10% off. And what I'm going to do is just show you where to find these on our website. So if you go to swimsmarttoday.com. Yes, I will post it here. Swimsmarttoday.com. Post it in the chat. Okay. We have a whole bunch of stuff, but just to keep it relevant to the talk, if you go up here to the bookstore, you can find the biology of swimming. This is our bigger textbook, but lots of pictures, very, I think, informative. I had one swimmer actually use it for their homeschool biology class. And then if you want the nutrition guide under the bookstore, again, you can come here to the nutrition guide and get that. And it has 20 weeks worth of this chart here to help plan your meals out. And then if some of you guys are coming from international and the shipping fees are too high, you can come to these downloadable section here and you can get a downloadable PDF of the nutrition guide. You can get a downloadable of the biology of swimming. I feel free to share it with your swimmers, but if you can avoid posting it online for everyone, it would be greatly appreciated. We put a lot of work into these. And I think that's about wrapping us up. If you want to stick around and learn more about SwimSmart and what we do, who we are, what we have, I'll probably spend a few minutes just kind of talking about that. If you have any questions, please leave it in the chat or email me. You can always hit us. You can contact us here in the bottom right. This will come directly to me and I'll see it and I'll try to get back to you guys. And I'll post my email in the chat, sales@swimsmarttoday.com. Okay, thank you very much for coming. If you want to, do you have any meal plans for vegetarians also? No, I don't have anything specific. That's probably where you'd need to start talking to an actual dietitian if you're really interested in that. But if you go to the this chart, basically anytime we have a meat in our planner, switch that out for beans and legumes, right? These are the things that are going to have a lot of protein, just like meat, and that's what I would substitute with. Okay. Yes, this will be on YouTube. I will post the recording here later today, probably. Okay, so for those of you sticking around, what is SwimSmart? Me and my buddy Mike, we are swim coaches. Mike has his own swim team, great swimmers there, like national swimmers. And we had these inventions and ideas for our own kids, and we thought that maybe they would be helpful and beneficial to others, So we started going around making this this website. We made these products. Every product we make, we're like, all right, this is the last one. And then a couple weeks later, we're like, nope, we have another one. We need to make it. It's good. So let me just run you through these real quick. And that way you guys kind of get an exposure to what we do. And if there's something on here that you like that fixes a problem in your swimmer's life, like streamlines or foggy goggles, we can be there for them. So this is our first invention, the squeeze line. And as you can see, it goes up on your head or underneath your swim cap. And when kids hit it with their streamline, it beeps for them underwater. So it kind of goes with them throughout workout to build that streamlined habit over time. Because man, I've lost my voice many times yelling at 10-year-olds to get their streamline fixed. One thing that might be more beneficial to everybody is that goggles all fog up, and we were really tired of that. And these little stickers actually go inside your goggles, and they totally work. You get them wet a little bit, and you won't have fog on your goggles, and now we have snorkel mask versions. It'll last all workout, and then these stay in your goggles. We've had swimmers use them for over a year. They've never had to replace them, and so this is, I think this is one of our coolest ones, to be honest. Let's go to another. This one maybe is more familiar to you guys. Paddles. A lot of people use paddles, but when you just put it on your hand, it really incentivizes swimmers to drop their elbows. whereas we want swimmers to swim actually with their forearms, right? So this has a forearm attachment. There's a few different sizes, and it gives you that more grip on the forearm so that your body naturally wants to use a high early vertical forearm, right? And you can switch up these sizes. We have these gripper ones, so you can do like an upgraded fist drill if that's what you like to do. Another thing we have are these push paddles. So these are not like your regular paddles at all. These are, you put them on kind of with your fist towards it, and then you push it through the water. So good for underwaters. This is what's like transformed our underwater working. Some kids like to do it with their head to work on alignment drills. Again, there's like a few different sizes for different swimmers. Super popular for us is these power harnesses. So instead of using a belt around your waist, we use these harnesses. And when you're working with power towers, when you're working with parachutes, when you're working with bands, you know, your alignment can really easily be thrown off because you're getting pulled from behind, whereas this harness shifts the pulling to the front, and so you're forced really to keep your body alignment in a good position. And then we have all kinds of extras that come with this. So if you want parachutes, we have a parachute that comes with 2 different sizes that you can switch in and out. You can get it with a little weight that will drop it underneath the water. If you practice a little bit, you can actually get good at flip turns, and so you can do like distance sets with resistance, which I really like, especially if you don't have a long course pool. And then there's some other things here like this tug of war set, so you can actually do like fights between your swimmers to figure out who's actually the best, and they'll try to tug of war against each other. Those are kind of the main ones. This breakaway is a little fancy. It's kind of this contraption that you hook up to power towers, and a few yards down the road, 10, 15 yards down the pool, it will automatically release and retract, and then the next swimmer can jump on the power tower. So it really increases efficiency of a very expensive tool. There is a way to use it without power towers. It's a little more complicated, but going back to these books, you know, I talked about the biology of swimming. That's kind of our headline textbook, but we also have it in a course format. So if you like this video, if you like this format, I turned the entire book into these PowerPoints, and you can get access to the whole course on our website as well. And the other book that we've written, there's 2 other books. Okay, we're almost done. A couple starter guides. One is for coaches. So I remember being a brand new coach on deck. I had no coaching experience. I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to train strokes. I don't know how to write workouts. I don't know how to motivate or grow a team. And this is the book that we wrote to help those swimmers or those coaches. And that is a course as well, which you can get online videos and PowerPoints, and it's got all kinds of demonstrations for different drills and what to focus on and how to think like a coach. So this is one of our growing popular things. And then for swimmers, you know, a lot of swimmers are new to the swimming world, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to behave. They don't know what swim meets are. They don't know how to read a clock. And so we wrote a book for them to help teach them how to stay motivated, how to integrate with a great swim team. And so we wrote a book for them, and hopefully this year we'll come out with a book for parents. So we are excited about that. Last but not least, obviously we have some swag. Super excited about all these fun ideas. The world is my toilet, but I still sometimes use the bathroom. I know every swimmer, we're not supposed to talk about it, but that is definitely on every swimmer's mind. So if you're looking for something that's just fun and different, this is the place to find it. Some cheering towels. And that is it. That is all we do. So if you like this, let me know. If you want to do it again, let me know. We have tons of topics we can talk about, and would be excited to share with you guys some more. So thank you everyone for joining. Hope you learned something. Hope it helped. We'll try to see you next time.